Let's learn about how photosynthesis works. Photosynthesis consists of two stages that are the so-called light reaction, in which solar energy is converted into chemical, and then there's the Kelvin, which uses chemical energy to build G3P, the precursor to glucose and other molecules found within the cell. Both of these stages occurs inside one of the organelles found in the plant cells, which are called chloroplasts, and there are around 30 to 40 of them per cell. A chloroplast has two membranes that surround a fluid which called stroma, within which sacs called thylakoids are often suspended. These sacs are often stacked into columns called grana, and in the membrane of this thylakoid sits a special pigment molecule called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll can take either an A or B form, differing only in one functional group inside the porphyrin ring. Either a methyl or aldehyde group, the porphyrin ring is what gives the molecule the capacity to absorb sunlight in a unique way. If chlorophyll absorbs a photon of a particular energy, one of its electrons jumps to an excited state. These chlorophyll molecules sit inside of a photosystem with many other chlorophylls, and this excitation gets passed around from one molecule to another, with one electron relaxing on back to the ground state, emitting another photon that will excite an electron in another molecule, and so forth, like a pinball machine. Eventually, a photon may strike the reaction center complex, which also contains two molecules of chlorophyll. When this happens, the high energy excited electrons, rather than relaxing, will back down to the ground state, will instead be transferred to another molecule called the primary electron acceptor, in which an enzyme supplies the missing electron to oxidized chlorophyll via a water molecule to get it back to normal, which is how oxygen molecules are produced. This is the first step of the light reaction. These are the series of redox reactions that occur first in photosystem 2 and then in photosystem 1. If they seem like they were named backwards, it is because they were named in the order that they were discovered. In photosystem 2, electrons named flow beginning with the primary electron acceptor through a series of compounds that are embedded in the thylakoid membrane, sort of like an electron transport chain from cellular respiration. ATP will be a byproduct of this product due to a proton gradient and the ATP synthesis, also just like a cellular respiration. Now electrons will move through photosystem 1, another electron transport chain, which instead of producing ATP, photosystem 1 will result in conversion of nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, or NADP+, into NADPH. So the light reactions in the thylakoid, which are summarized by the following equation, require sunlight and water among the reactants and generate oxygen, ATP, and NADPH as products. ATP and NDPH are then used in the Kelvin cycle, which occurs in the stroma. This is where the oil synthesis occurs. Unlike the citric acid cycle, which is catabolic, the Kelvin cycle is anabolic, building organic molecules from smaller components requiring energy to do so. This happens in three phases. Phase 1 is the carbon fixation, which catalyzed by enzymes called rubisco. Rubisco captures CO2 from the atmosphere and touches it into a 5-carbon sugar called ribulose biphosphate. The resulting 6 carbon molecules unstable and splits into 2 molecules of 3-photoglycogen. Phase 2 is reduction. Each of these molecules receives a phosphate from ATP and is reduced by NADPH, which loses a phosphate and becomes glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Some of this GP3 is the output of the Kelvin cycle, going on in other pathways that generate glucose and other organic compounds. And some goes back to generate more RUBP and start the cycle all over again. To generate a net output of 1 NG3P, a cycle needs 9 ATP and 6 NADPHS. So to summarize, photosynthesis occurs in two phases. In the light reactions, light and water goes in and oxygen comes out, as well as ATP and NADPH that are used in the Calvin cycle, where carbon dioxide comes in and organic products like sugar comes out. This way, it's almost like reverse of cellular respiration that involves a series of redox reaction that the electrons just follow in opposite directions. In one, a sugar is built, in the other, sugar is degraded. And that's how plants makes their own food.